Stimming and scripting is a hot topic and a controversial topic in the autism world. Today, we're covering some of the questions we get about stimming and scripting. Hi, I'm Dr. Mary Barbera, autism mom, behavior analyst, and best-selling author. Each week, I provide you with some of my ideas about turning autism or signs of autism around so each child can be more independent, safer, and happier, and reach their fullest potential. So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do that now. Today, we're covering a short excerpt from podcast 231, all about the questions we get about stimming and scripting. Let's get to one of them now.
When is stimming a problem, and when should it be left alone? And yeah, we're doing this live right now, and I'm monitoring some of the comments, and a lot of them are that question: is when is it a problem? When should it be left alone? What about this type of stim and this type of stim? And yeah. How would you answer that?
Well, that's a great question, and I think the first step to anything, any problem behavior, skill deficit, anything, is assessment. And luckily, I created last year, I took the one-page assessment that's in my Turn Autism Around book. We paid and invested a ton of money and time into a digital assessment, which I said was going to be free for the first 1,000 people. More than 20,000 parents and professionals have taken the digital assessment, and it's still free. And it's at marybarbera.com/assessment. And you can take that, as soon as you're done listening to this. And we're not diving into STEM right away. We're looking at language, we're looking at problem behaviors, imitation, and we're getting a snapshot in 10 minutes of where your child or client is at in terms of self-care and daily activities, eating, sleeping, grooming, dressing, potty. We're looking at, you get a score in language and learning skills, and then you get a score in problem behaviors. And stimming, mostly stimming, could be scripting, is a problem behavior if it's, first of all, causing any kind of injury. Like I talked earlier about the boy who was only 2, who banged his head on hard and soft surfaces. So when I got there, he had an open wound on his head. And I'm also a registered nurse. So this is, a big concern. If you have any kind of injury, repetitive banging, repetitive anything that's causing injury, that is something that is definitely a problem behavior, definitely needs reduction. We need to get the kids safe. Now, if you have, like Lucas did when he was little, vocal stimming of making noises, yelling out, babbling, you might say, well, that's not a problem, Mary. Why should we stop stimming? Well, as a mom, it's impossible to take a child who has major vocal stimming to church, to restaurants. He went to typical preschool his whole early life, and so that doesn't bode well. You might think, well, he's autistic, everybody should just embrace and accept him. If he's making those kind of noises during story time, it is impeding his learning and the learning of others. And so I am not all about let's stamp out stimming. No, let's assess in all areas: self-care, language, and problem behavior. Stimming could be happening all throughout the day, could be, so extreme. That's the other thing. So if it's causing injury, yes, we want to reduce it. If it's completely disruptive to the child, the family, and other people, yeah, we probably want to reduce it. And if it's excessive, it's constant. Because really, if I am sitting here doodling, watching reality TV, scrolling through Facebook, if I'm doing any stimming behavior and you're trying to teach me something, my mind is not available for that. So we have to look at stimming as something normal, but if it's excessive, if it's causing harm, if it's impeding learning, and if it's excessive, then we need to reduce it. But we don't reduce it by like hyper focusing on it. The way to reduce it is to bring up your skills. You're going to want to bring up the skills, whether the child has excessive stimming or scripting anyway. You're going to want to bring up language, you're going to want to bring up social skills, and bring up leisure activities. So in the end, stimming is just not that important to focus on. What's important is that you do the assessment and you make a plan, and it's just part of it. You know, we had, for instance, one of my clients who I saw for an independent evaluation when she was 5 years of age. She looked pretty good. She was an intermediate learner, and she's got some videos in my intermediate learner course because mom granted me permission to share her videos. And, you know, she could talk and she was potty trained, and she had a lot of stimming and scripting. And even though she could talk, she was kind of obsessed with, like, one of the things she was obsessed with was taking long instruments like a pen or a spatula in a play kitchen and flapping it in front of her eyes. She would also script, and she would also, I forget what the other STEM behaviors were. I remember the spatula in the kitchen being big. So I observed her in 3 different settings. I observed her at home. I observed her at her developmental delay preschool, and I observed her in regular preschool or daycare with a person there with her, shadow. And over the day, every 15 minutes, I used partial interval data, and I tracked stimming, other problem behaviors, other things I was counting. But 90% of the intervals, she had some kind of stimming or scripting. And it wasn't horrible. It wasn't like, let's stamp this out. It wasn't causing injury, but it was disruptive. She wasn't really learning and progressing very well. And then over the next 2 years, I worked with her. I went weekly. She had a really good team in place. Her mom was highly motivated. And this little girl did really well. And her stimming went down to near 0 levels. And people are like, well, how'd you do that? Well, 2 years of good teaching and reinforcement and a gradual increase in her language, social, and leisure activities. So in the end, it's not a problem unless it's really causing injury. And for everybody, we're going to want to increase your skills. Start with the assessment.
Yeah, I would very much agree with that. And also, we get questions a lot in our toddler preschooler course, like, when I'm doing this, my child is just throwing objects or dumping objects or lining them up. How do I stop it, or should I stop it? And in that case, it's like, if a child is safe, they're engaging themselves in safe items, you are busy, so you can't engage them. That's actually a good skill at that time. We want to morph it into, more leisure skills and things. But at that time, if we just stamped out that stimming and was like, this is a problem, you'd have a problem, because what else are they going to do? Because that's what they're doing. So if you have safe stims, yes, we want to make a plan but we do want to recognize that it's actually can be a good thing. And scripting wise, Brentley scripts a lot, and it can be a problem in certain situations, my younger son's concerts, different situations. But as he's gotten older, we've been able to teach him, when it's a good time, to script and when it's not. And sometimes we're at things like my younger son's soccer, and tell yourself a story the whole time. Like, there's nothing else for you to do. And it's a really good way for him to engage himself. So it's good. It's hard sometimes to be able to find that balance. But remember, the number one thing is keeping kids safe and happy, and learning. And so use that as your guide to figure out if it needs more intervention or not.
And I love what you said about safe stims. And, when our consultant came in 1999, when Lucas was diagnosed, my husband said, she lets him watch TV too much. Like, we need to like turn off the TV, because he was kind of obsessed, and he still is with watching, VHS tapes. And she was like, well, you don't want to stop that. That's basically she didn't say this, but in hindsight, that was his safe stim. I could put a Barney video in and know that I could actually go upstairs and get a shower. I mean, that he was in a gated room with the Barney video in. I was pretty sure he was going to be safe. And if I stopped that, then he would get into taking, cans of soda or bottle of water and just dump it out to see that cause and effect. He would dump things. He would climb on things. He would take markers and just write on things. Those are other stims that are not completely dangerous, but we don't want him climbing. We don't want him writing on walls or on important papers. We don't want him dumping, cans of soda out that I have to clean up. So, watching TV or playing on iPads is a lot of times a safe stim. Hope you enjoyed that short excerpt from podcast 231. If you did, hop on over to marybarbera.com/231 to listen and watch the whole podcast. And for more information about where you can start with stimming, you can download our free guide at marybarbera.com/stimming. And I'll see you right here next time.